name is Duong Hang. I am the Deputy Director for Platform One. It's, even though we put the word DoD in front of it, oh, sorry, thank you. We support the DoD, but we support more than the DoD apparently, because I'll get into that a little bit. But we are actually an Air Force organization, surprisingly. I know Ms. Knausenberger yesterday mentioned Platform One, so we've been around for about 3 years now, and we're actually getting stronger and better every day. I've been with the program for about 2.5 years now. I was not a founder of the organization, but I certainly inherited a lot from the team, and so the things I'm presenting to you today, I can't claim credit for everything that has happened in the past. A lot of this stuff is from the people that started the program, and we've been carrying it forward, and we're building upon it. So I just want to recognize those people that started today, and some of them are here in this audience. So I'm here to talk about platforms and what they are, why do we need them, the tools that support that, and how do we actually do that in the government, at least the way we do it in Platform One. So not to say that there's one way of doing business, but this is just one perspective from where I sit, kind of presenting to you how we do it today. So has anyone been to the Sphere? Have you heard of it? You guys have seen this, right? You've been there? I have not had the pleasure of seeing it. I've seen many pictures, but reading about it, it just opened up back in September, and right now it's reported to be costing about $2.3 billion. They had some delays. They had a lot of construction delays. Supply chain costs have gone up. Holds about 18,000 people sitting, and 20,000 people if they're all standing. That's the platform, right? This is a venue for entertainment. So right now, the U2's out there doing their performances. I heard there's that they do movies out there as well. So really cool venue. I'd love to go there someday. Maybe you can too. But the tools are the things that this place provides. It's this, you see the physical dimensions there. It's the largest in the world, 875,000 square feet. And they have 16,000K resolution wrapped around screens across, and that's all screens, right? That's all giant LCD screens. And each of the screens, interestingly enough, have speakers that are mounted behind those. And then you also have speakers underneath the floor. So it's like this 4-dimensional experience. And so this is kind of like the tools that they need to actually put together in order to have this amazing experience. And so I'm using this as a kind of a shoot-off of like, what does that mean to be a platform in our world, right? So Evan Botcher kind of threw out this definition I thought was actually pretty good. Digital platform, foundations for a self-service, APIs or application programming interfaces, tools, services, knowledge, and support, which are arranged as a compelling internal product. And that means that you can have autonomous delivery teams that are using the platform, and they can actually deliver products at a higher pace and reduce coordination. So I obviously I highlight some of the terms that I thought were important of what a platform should do. And so a lot of these, some of these are maybe not new to you. A lot of you guys are here because you guys are doing this work. But I think it's important to understand kind of like, we have the same vision here that what we want to do in Platform One. So why do we need them? And so, the domain complexity, the applications that exist, the software that we build have to live in the modern world. They have to live in the real world. They have to actually provide value to people. And so people are complicated. The world's complicated. There's complexity there. Then you got the business that we're in, most of us are in, is the technical side. It's obviously complex, much more complex than when I started, much more complex than our fathers and grandfathers started, or grandmothers. And of course, there's also, for the government space, there's a regulatory complexity. Policies and process and things that we have to follow that, unlike many other private companies, necessarily don't have to follow as much. But it's a lot more complicated for us in the government to do the things that we need to do. And of course, individual cognitive load. And I made sure I had two different icons, right? The left hemisphere and the right hemisphere. Both sides are important in what we do. And I know sometimes we emphasize the left side or the right side more. But what's important for us as a platform delivery organization is that we appeal to both sides. And that's very complicated, both in terms of the people that do the work within the platform and the people that can consume the platform and use it. It can be very complicated. So that's why we need to have something to help manage that complexity. So this is our logo. You might have seen it before. I'm wearing the t-shirt, obviously. It's not Grogu, it's a little green alien, that's what we say. And our mission is to transform how the DoD delivers the warfighting capabilities that it needs through innovation. But innovation is not just the tools, it's not just the specific technical tools that we are very comfortable with in the technology space, but we focus on the frameworks and the culture, the collaboration culture part, and the process technologies that then support that. And it's actually, we spent many, many months working through kind of how do we update this mission, and this is what we came to as a group. And the order in which these are presented is what's important, because you can have all the great tools and technologies at your disposal, but if you have nothing above that, everything above that, if you don't have that, you're either going to overspend or underutilize what you have, and a lot of waste will happen. So that's why it's important to, in this order, to focus on. So tools are all these are tools in some ways, but the bottom tool, the technology tool, is actually the least important. And so talking about frameworks, right? And starting with that tooling, what does that mean? So for us, Agile, we're all familiar with Agile. I've spent many years thinking about this, and I grew up in the DoD, as an Air Force officer, starting off, and then kind of becoming an Army civilian, then a Navy civilian, and now an Air Force civilian again. And being in both tactical units as well as program offices, a lot of times where Agile was always a fancy word growing up. It was something that only the tech bros did. It was only something the commercial side did. It was never something the government would do. And I had to think about, what does that really mean as a practitioner in the government? What does that mean? And so reading a lot of books and kind of working in the space, agility being at the very top, you can't be agile unless you're learning, right? If you're just randomly doing stuff, you're not learning from it, you can't be really agile and be effective. But in order to learn, you have to do it quickly, because if you're learning slowly, then what you're learning is irrelevant. So you have to learn quickly. And then in order to be fast, you have to have autonomy, right? So if you don't have the ability to do things on your own, then you can't go quickly, because a lot of dependencies will occur. But in order to have true autonomy, you have to have real choices. If you don't have choice and you only have one way of doing business, or you only have one tool choice, you have only one process, you really don't have autonomy, right? And then finally, in order to have choice, you have to have modularity, meaning you have things that you can replace if you need to. I have this as sort of in the hierarchy because this is what builds on top of each other. And I sort of realize this is not just from a tooling perspective, but it's also from an organizational perspective, that you need to have both in order to actually align that. So it's people first, cultures and processes on the left, and technology and tools on the right. That's what you need at every part of this level to do so. So I'll explain kind of how we do that in Platform 1. So starting with this, we talked about the frameworks and now the collaboration culture. So this is a double infinity symbol, and really what it's showing is that we are a very small organization. We're about 250 people, both government and contractors. We don't plan on being much bigger than that, and one of the reasons is because we feel like we only provide one solution that is only one that supports many use cases, but not all use cases. What we really depend on is partnerships with the defense industrial base on your left, the open source community, and the commercial, to provide the talent and the software and we bring that in, and we actually adjudicate that. We check it out, make sure it's good to go for DoD use, and then we provide enhancements to that, and we bring it over to the Department of Air Force, the Joint Program Offices, and we call them airman coders, right? It's the soldiers or the sailors or airmen that are actually at the field units actually doing the hard work. And so now it's not just a one-way transfer, because those innovations that are happening at the tactical level can be brought in, and we think that we want to bring that in back to the community for sharing, and then bring it back, and then sometimes some of that can be pushed out back to the commercial open source. So this is a model that we feel this is how we as a community can scale the innovations that we all provide, because we're often talking about innovations as if it's like the goal is a product. We believe in Platform 1 is the innovation is just a byproduct of the process and the community and and the orchestration of that ecosystem that produces innovations. So innovation is a byproduct, and that's what we focus on is the actual environment to provide innovative opportunities for people. And so what this is a mission-focused, secure, tailorable, government-orchestrated, vendor-neutral ecosystem that we're shooting for. So how our 4 product lines in Platform 1, and I sort of try to summarize it in very bumper sticker words here. We have 4 of them. Cloud Native Access Point, or CNAPP, is the one upper left, and that's our zero trust platform that securely connects everything that we do, because security is baked in, and we do that from the very start. We also have Iron Bank, which is on the lower left, and traditionally, back in maybe about a year ago, you've heard me talking about this, it was like, hey, we harden containers and we provide a place for you to download. We've broadened that mission. So Iron Bank is now really a place for a secure supply chain. And so we're doing a lot of things that are more focused on not just the software containers, but kind of like where they come from, who are the actors that update them, especially open source, and then how do we make that available to other people in other classification levels. So those are the kind of things that we're working on there. And it's really about supply chain and not necessarily just hardening containers. But in order to build that platform of those containers, those pieces and parts of tools, you need something to kind of orchestrate all that. And that's where Big Bang comes in. And that's where we say deploy platforms. You can take a lot of this stuff from Big Bang. It's a lot of the infrastructure's code, configurations code. It's all the recipe books, I call it that, for the computer to take the certain parts and pieces in Iron Bank and then basically lay out your platform that you need to actually deliver your DevSecOps platform. That's what they do. And then finally, for Party Bus, for those that don't have the ability to really say, hey, I want to run my own platform. I can't do all that. I just want to code and develop applications. We have the Party Bus, and that's where you can develop and operate. And so what this is kind of showing you is there's different flavors of DevSecOps capabilities that you can use and deploy in order to be on your journey, no matter what type of organization you are, whether you're just someone that at the tactical level needs to develop an application, or you're someone that needs to run a very bespoke platform, and you want to still use safe and secure containers and capabilities, you can do so as well. And so to kind of put it together in kind of perspective, right? So this is kind of like the different tools for different use cases. And if you look at the very top, it's the secure access, get and harden containers, components, build templates, build pipelines, run your apps. Those are kind of the big rock kind of things that we see if you're going to actually deliver capabilities. And what we're trying to explain to a lot of organizations, especially ones that don't really understand the technology, is like, look, man, you can do it all yourself, right? That's the very first thing up there. You can do it all yourself, like you've done before, and you have a lot of control over that, but you're going to spend a lot of money on something that someone else has already done. It's really not your mission, but you felt like you had to do it, so you got to do it, but you can do it all yourself. You have the option of adopting our CNAPP as a service, and that's the next line there, where then you can start saying, hey, I've secured my infrastructure, and I can actually focus on the things I need to build the platform. Or if you want to go next step down and say, hey, you know what, I don't want to focus on those components. I want to actually just take the components that are out there in Iron Bank, and now I can actually focus on just taking those ingredients from the shelf in Iron Bank, and now I want to design my own platform. You can do that, right? And if you want to go further, you say, hey, you know what, I just need to run a platform. I don't need to figure all that out. You can adopt Big Bang for free. And then finally, if you're like, hey, look, I don't have to do all that stuff. I just want to develop my applications, Party Bus. Again, the thing is as you step down in this sort of this area, you have less control, right? Because someone else is giving you the stuff that's already there. It's already been hardened. It's already been secured, but it's also been it's highly regulated, right? But you don't have to, pay your own way to do that. You can just inherit what we've developed, and you can then focus on your mission. You can dedicate not just your money, but it's really the people that work for you, the talent. That's really the resources that are most scarce in the GovTech is the talent, and focusing them on the hard problems, actually developing an application, a software application that actually is the game changer, difference maker in your organization and for the warfighter. That's what matters, and that's what we want to do for everyone. Of course, I can't talk about tools without actually talking about tools. So for Big Bang, We have curated several different pieces of tools out there in all these areas. Might be hard to read, but there's kind of the three roles there: the core, add-ons, and community. And so how we've done this in terms of trying to make sure that we build something that is useful for most people, but tailorable for others, is to build a set of core pieces of what a platform should look like on that first row, that green row. And you can see where there's service meshing, there's monitoring, logging, tracing, security compliance, and access control. All these things are available to you today in terms of being able to download and have Big Bang orchestrate that for you. This is what you need to run a Big Bang platform. And whether you're running the platform as a development-only platform, a staging, or an operations, you need the core piece. You can see that in some of these areas, we have multiple tools. So again, vendor neutral is a key principle, and having the ability to swap out what you need. And one of the cool things is, about 4 or 5 months ago, we actually are able to deploy, or anyone can deploy, Big Bang Core with only open source components. So you can actually do it for free, which is really awesome. So that's one thing that we push for. Now, obviously, Core is not enough. So if you're a developer, obviously you're going to need some stuff beyond what Core provides. That's where the add-ons come in. And as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff there. Some of it is actually you need it for when you're doing your DevSecOps pipelines. The add-ons themselves, we manage as well. And though we have some partnerships, you can see there's a lot of companies out there that we work with quite closely. And then finally, there's community, and this is just a portion of it where the community then can also add to Big Bang and provide their management of capabilities. This is a snapshot of what that is. And so you can go to the universe.bigbang.ds.mil and you can read more about what Big Bang is and what it can do for you. But this is kind of the main area that I want to focus on or talk about for Platform 1. So what does that all mean? What's the net effect on this, right? And so this is actually a slide that I can't claim credit for. This is actually from Lieutenant General Jack Shanahan. He was the ex-Jake director, or now CDAO, and also the CTO for CIA. And they have presented this for many, many senior executives saying, why does platforms matter? Why do we have that and enterprise capability? So on the left side, you can see that a stovepiped capability, when you have applications of platforms and infrastructure that is stovepiped, not only are you dealing with multiple costs, but you have multiple ATOs and multiple AOs that have to approve everything. So your total costs are higher, and every time you add a new platform or a new capability, it's just more expensive, right? On the right side, you can see there's benefits of that enterprise scaling. And the focus is that having an ATO that covers the whole thing, and for us in Platform 1 with Partybus, we have a continuous ATO, just like you've heard that before, where we allow, as long as you build an application and use our tools and pass all the checks within Partybus, you can basically operate your applications within 26 days of development. So very, very fast compared to like the 9 to 18 months of ATO work that many of you in GovTech are familiar with. But all platforms are wrong, but some are useful, right? So obviously a play on the idea of models. And so, I talked about Platform 1. It's not the only platform out there. And some of the shortcomings and things and this is why partnerships matters, we still have some challenges, right, for continuous delivery. Network classification air gaps. That's a challenge today. We're working on it. I know some organizations have sort of figured out their path, but it's still a challenge for many people of having to go from unclassed to classified as a problem. If you have an air gap environment going to actually a platform that doesn't connect to the internet, it's a problem. Legacy software integration and support, that's a challenge as well. Embedded hardware, you have the F-35 little logo there, so a lot of embedded systems can't do what we do today, which is something that we're tackling or partnering with others to tackle. Operating system requirements, software acceptance procedures, and then federal acquisition culture. All these things are still hurdles that we need help. We need you guys to help us with. We need each other. We need to help each other with. And we'd love to partner with you if you're able to do so. And then from an acquisition culture, this is a book that I love this book, and if anyone's read this book, it's just an amazing book. One of the things that I want to touch upon, like from yesterday's discussion with Adam talking about, the workforce is one of the reasons why, at least according to Jennifer Palka, doing some research, that we have this sort of culture of like technologists and people that do technical work are not important is because was something that since the 50s, there was a change in view that the work that you do as a technologist or things that you do is basically not as important as people that do policy and processes. And so how many of you looking at USA Jobs see like GS 15 jobs, GS 14 jobs here in DC? They're all policy guys, right? And people that just know how to talk, but they don't actually deliver. So this is one of the reasons why we have the challenges we have today. We've hollowed out our technical talent in our program offices, our headquarters, and so people that are in charge today don't really understand technology. And so what happens is they're very risk adverse. They focus on process over outcomes. And then what happens is in a program office, a lot of times they're like, hey, look, I just want to outsource to one big prime. Nothing against the big primes, but it's a challenge. One big prime, and we're going to have multiple years for a period of performance, have long lead times, we have less competitions, incremental improvements, and field innovations. Those are some things that that she talks about that it's a challenge in the government. And fortunately, we've had tools in the federal acquisition tool set now. 18F is an awesome organization at GSA. These are some kind of the things that they looked at: outcomes over products, talent over products, government orchestrated multiple primes. So having a government organization that has many, many different companies working together in integrated teams. You have contract vehicles are pre-negotiated, so you can go quickly when you get these new contracts, and you have short pops, short periods of performance. So you make sure that people are just getting their job done. If they're not able to do their job or do it well as a company, then you can pivot to another company, right? So those are some things that they've looked at, experiment with. We've actually implemented it within P1 as well. And of course, our talent. I don't want to say, let me go back one. I don't want to say too much here because I know there's others, the presenters that talk about the talent piece, but though I would say that this is one of my most passionate things about technology and government today is our people in the government are completely underappreciated, and we need more people like you to join us because we can spend money on everything from missiles and bombs and all kinds of stuff, but the people that actually do the innovation, that have the great ideas, to make the lasting changes in the organization, that's the people, and we need people like that to join the government. So where do we go from here? Some couple things I want to kind of cover here. HCD, human-centered design. A lot of these but I think this is where it starts. It always starts with empathy. Focus on our strengths, not our weaknesses. And that goes to people that are both practitioners as well as the people that are 4-stars because they have a limited time and capacity and experience. So be empathetic, right, to that. We want to lower the cognitive barriers, whether you're doing it from technology or you're doing it from the acquisition side of things. That means psychological safety and reducing the complexity on that. And we want to design to incentives and not to penalize, right? So you want to design for positive behavior. From an organizational perspective, which I'll touch upon a little bit later, there's that, and then of course tooling. That includes holistically your technical acquisitions, process, and policies. They're all tools. You want to balance the safety and security with effectiveness. That's always a challenge for us. And the thing is that time is the only tool or resource that no one can control or renew. If you've grown up in old school project management, they would say it's the iron triangle of cost, schedule, performance, and you can do 2 out of 3. That's a false statement. Time is something you cannot trade off. So that's always going to be a constant, and you have to make sure that those two are balanced against that. And so just to touch upon organizations, how many of you have you've seen this, right? very, 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 very bespoke, funny kind of showing the models of different organizations. I can't take credit for it. There's where I got it from on the link there. But what this talks about is organizations. This is another book I highly recommend. This book, Team Topologies, really talks about how it really focuses on Conway's law, which is that an organization's design produces an organization, the way it's designed and is organized within its foundations, basically builds the system that mimics the communication strategies of that organization. And so for basically how your organizational culture is really then it's reflected in the systems you build. And so if you look at the DoD and like all the bespoke stovepipe systems, they are very much, you know, a product of a program office that has their own funding. They don't talk to anyone else. They're going to deliver it the way they deliver it, and that's why it is what it is. And so they offer ideas about a reverse Conway maneuver, which is basically in order to change the system, change your organization first, and your system will be a byproduct of that. And they talk about interaction styles, which this is where, you know, your tools come in to help support collaboration styles, access to service, style of communication between teams, and then facilitating teams. So just in closing, I'm a little over time, but I want to say that a couple things just to take away. A bad workman blames his tools. A bad leader blames others. Your environment shapes your imagination. Your tools are limited by your imagination. And leaders change their environment. So if you think about it and if you connect all the dots, it's up to us as leaders, whether you're down here or up here, we're the ones that are going to be the catalyst for change. And we change the environment, we change how we talk, we change how we organize. That will change the tools that we use, and that will change and transform the systems and outcomes that we're actually looking for. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.